Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to start off the day, I have the pleasure to call upon His Excellency, Dr. Ubaid Saif al-Zahabi, Deputy CEO for Legal Affairs and Issuance at ESCA, to deliver his opening remarks.
Assalamu alaikum and very good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you in the UAE, especially in the most inspirational city, Dubai. Also, my thanks go to Charter Alternatives Investments Analysis Associations for providing the opportunity to organize a joint events in UAE and sign MOU as a framework for future cooperation. In this event, as usual, we would like to compare to the industry that SCA will continue developing regulations for securities and commodities pertaining to trading, clearing, and settlements according to IASCO, ISMA, and EMIR standards, and other international best practices. In this regard, SCA working very close with stakeholders, EDIX, DFM, and DGCX. In addition, developing the investments funds regulation is strategic goal. The new regulations incorporate provisions for special funds structure such as hedge funds, private equity funds, REIT, etc. The alternatives investments have become an integral component of the global investments. They constitute a vital element of the system that ensure that capital continues to move within the financial system and through the global economy. The industry provides liquidity through allowing access to various forms of capital funding, which is an imperative source of innovations, participate in economic and social development in the country. The popularity of alternative assets continues to grow, and the global industry has continued to expand in size, as according to a leading source of data, the assets under management of alternative assets classes now stand at around $7 trillion. Also, it's proven that the investor in the Middle East have become an important contributor to the growth of this industry. Focusing on the UAE market, there are growing opportunities in asset classes such as real estate, infrastructure, private equity, and alternative investments. In conclusion, the UAE continues to be both a source and a destination for the alternative investments industry, with the great potentials for future growth. This is supported by the existence of the liquid supply of capital and the presence of highly skilled professional fund managers, and the availability of a diverse and attractive range of investment opportunities. By shedding light on important topics such as liquidity, alternative investments, hedge funds, information, depository, and changing landscape of the hedge funds industry, I believe this event will provide great benefits to all of us as a regulator, financial markets, investors, and advisors. I will leave you to enjoy the events program and hope that you find it.
Based out of Hong Kong. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Cairo Association, it too is an honour and a pleasure to be able to welcome you all today to the FCA Cairo Alternative Investment Summit. I've been lucky enough to have travelled here to Dubai many times over the years. I've been based in Asia for almost the last 20, and I'm delighted to be here today. I'm accompanied by my colleague, Professor Black, who's also part of the Cairo Association management team, and we're here to represent the Cairo Association to announce our MOU signing ceremony here with the FCA. We echo His Excellency's insightful comments in that we too believe an extension in the base knowledge of key characteristics of the main alternative asset classes is indeed very important. and one that is critical for robust success in the alternative investments industry. Searches for alternative access to alpha, away from the standard equities and fixed income type allocations of old, are prompting investigation and indeed utilisation of a widening array of asset classes. And each of these require a very different type of skill sets to actually use them effectively. His Excellency also shared a number of interesting statistics citing very clearly exactly how brisk the growth of the alternative investments industry, both globally and here in the Middle East, has been, and it continues. And there's again well-founded documents and statistics stating that that's not going to change anytime soon. The Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst Association, or CAIA, a much easier word to remember, is the world leader in alternative investment education, and we are best known for the CAIA Charter. Earning the Charter is a gateway to becoming a member of our association, and that's a network of almost 8,000 alternative investment professionals around the world. We have 100 of those here in the UAE, and both members and candidates, and almost 300 across GCC. We're delighted to also see some of the most senior CAIA members here in the audience today to really take part in this event with the SCA. CAIA is also considered the leading authority on industry trends and developments worldwide across the alternative investments landscape. And our connection, and indeed the MOU with the SCA, is a most exciting development and a solid reflection of SCA's vision for the future. Today presents a solid opportunity to hear from leading industry practitioners as they share their insights and their thoughts on important topics addressing various pillars of the alternative investments industry, from liquid alternatives to hedge funds to private equity to real estate, as well as a chance for you to raise your questions. We will also be sharing more on an incentive initiative to encourage many of you to commence your journey towards your CAIA Charter. Those will be shared a little bit later on today, and we look forward to sharing more information. Additionally, we'll be giving a copy of the CAIA Level 1 curriculum to each of you at the end of the day upon completion of your day here and your attendance certificate. With those thoughts, I'll end my comments and wish you each an enjoyable day, and very much look forward to your questions as well as hearing your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Now, Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony between the Securities and Commodities Authority and the Chartered Alternative Investment Analysts Association will begin. We invite Dr. Ubaid al-Zahabi and Ms. Joanne Murphy to sign the MOU. Welcome back. Liquid alternative investment will be our first topic of the summit, delivered by Dr. Keith Black, Managing Director, Curriculum and Exams, CAIA Association. Please welcome Dr. Keith Black.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, His Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to be here on my first trip to Dubai. It's a very excellent city and exciting place to be. So I welcome the opportunity to present to you today. So I'm from the CAIA Association, and we're a global organization of educators in alternative investments. We have over 7,700 members in 83 countries around the world. And we serve to provide education in alternative investments. So that's hedge funds and managed futures, private equity and venture capital, structured products, as well as this whole area of real assets, from real estate to commodities to infrastructure, farmland, and timberland. So we sponsor the Kaya Charter designation. There's a level 1 exam as well as a level 2 exam that lead to a globally recognized expert level credential that proves your knowledge of alternative investments. The level 1 and level 2 exams are both offered here in Dubai in March and September. And we'll give you information later on registering for the level 1 March exam, as well as a copy of our level 1 curriculum. So in addition to the Kaya curriculum, we have a number of other opportunities for education. So we sponsor 22 chapters around the world where we have over 120 educational and networking events each year. And we also publish 2 journals. One is the Journal of Alternative Investments, and the other is AIR, Alternative Investment Analyst Review. And all of our members worldwide will receive complimentary copies of both of these journals on a quarterly basis. So I spent most of 2014 thinking about this area of liquid alternative investments. And in January of this year, we published a special issue of our journal dedicated to the topic of liquid alternative investments. So my contribution to this Journal of Alternative Investments is on liquid alternatives, and this research on liquid alternative investments has been added to the Kaya curriculum, both at level 1 in the book you'll receive today, as well as in level 2 in our core and integrated topics reading book. So let's think about the world of hedge funds. We know that each country, each jurisdiction, has different regulations on hedge funds. So the US has one set of regulations, Europe has another, and Asian countries have a variety of other regulations. I'm from the US, and so we believe that the US has a strong and long history of building and regulating financial markets, but those structures may or may not be appropriate or relevant in other areas of the world. So we also see that due diligence is slightly easier in liquid alternatives than in these private placement limited partnerships. Because they have a daily net asset value, because they disclose their returns, we have an ability to have an enhanced due diligence process. We have an ability to look deeper into that manager's strategy. But one thing that's interesting is we've seen that hedge fund managers are entering the liquid alternative space, but mutual fund managers are also coming into the space. There's a paper by Barclays that says that the returns of hedge fund managers coming into liquid alts are slightly higher than the returns of long-only mutual fund managers coming into liquid alts. And we also see that there's very short track records in this area. And because there's short track records in this area, it's difficult to understand what the performance might be. Because remember, there's $100 billion invested in 2008, $500 billion today. That means that most of these managers weren't running a liquid alternatives fund in 2008, 2009. So we find it difficult to understand that drawdown. So what are the challenges here? The challenges are a lack of a track record, and the challenges are a lack of education. And because you're here today, because you might choose to engage in a Kaya educational program, right, we're overcoming that educational barrier to investing in these areas. But what we see is that 2/3 of managed futures products invested in the mutual fund area have less than a 3-year track record. But another advantage a hedge fund manager might have over a mutual fund manager is the hedge fund manager might have been investing in this private placement strategy for many years, even before 2008, and we might be able to use that track record or some portion of that track record as a proxy for our liquid alternatives performance. So that's an overview of the liquid alternative investment space. We know that it's been growing substantially. There's a lot of attractions to this space, but we need to be fully educated on what the UCITS products are, what the 40 Act products are, what the performance of the limited partnerships private placements are. And for more information, I'd refer you to the January issue of Journal of Alternative Investments from this year. So I have time for one question before I turn it over to Dr. Majed to discuss hedge fund fraud. Yes?
To what extent is the difference between the 40 Act and UCITS products and performance of hedge funds attributable just to leverage? Or are you able to extract that from manager skills?
So we think that it's interesting because when we looked at that performance attribution from that 42 to 94 basis point lower returns in the liquid alts, that was a study by Cliffwater. And what they said was, we're going to take a study of looking from one manager offering the hedge fund product to the same manager offering a mutual fund product. So let's look at the AQR managed futures in a hedge fund format and AQR managed futures within the mutual fund product. And so hopefully manager skills are approximately the same when AQR is running a hedge fund and a mutual fund simultaneously. And so we believe that it's the difference in leverage, the difference in concentration, the difference in liquidity risk that is making that difference. But that being said, the hedge fund managers have a difficult choice, right? Because if the hedge fund manager says, I'm offering you this fund at 2 and 20, and I'm offering you this fund at 1.5%, right? The hedge fund manager doesn't want to make those two products exactly the same because they would cannibalize their high-fee private placement business. And so we are seeing some funds offering a less risky version or a less active version in the mutual fund than they're offering in the hedge fund product. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keith Black. Our next topic is Hedge Fund Information Depository, a case study of preemptive solution to fund manager fraud by Dr. Majed Muhtasib, consultant, research and financial studies, ESCA. Please welcome Dr. Majed Muhtasib.
Yes, friends and colleagues, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. How are you today? You have a good day so far? Alhamdulillah. Okay. Now we're going to switch gears, still remain within the alternative investing world, but from a different angle. This came out of a presentation, comes out of a paper that I wrote and published in 2009, and I have three objectives. I will detail, but not more detail, but exciting detail about many events that took place in the hedge fund. I will present the experience of the investors in the hedge fund because every event is a learning opportunity. And I'll also have some solutions to mitigate, but you cannot eliminate fraud. There's always an incentive for fraud, as you are well aware. I would like to also take a minute or two to present the topic here within the KAIA curriculum. Hedge funds are a required topic at the KAIA level 1 exam. The candidates need to know about what are hedge funds, how they work, their performance, risk management, and at level 2, they need to know more about the operational due diligence. And that is where this presentation fits, into the operational due diligence on hedge funds. Okay? And I also like to point out that I'm not here to disparage or discredit the hedge fund industry. I used to work in the hedge fund industry. I was a research director for a fund of hedge funds in London about 15 years ago, and I've written extensively about the merits of investing in hedge funds. And I had a brief comparison between hedge funds and mutual funds. Well, Dr. Vlad did such a great job, so I will not have much greater degrees of freedom to manage a fund. Okay, unlike in mutual funds where they are far more restricted in managing the fund. Now, but to invest in hedge funds, you you have to be an accredited investor. And there are legal definitions or tests that the hedge fund manager must subject the clients of the fund to before they can accept their money. So if you ever wonder about yourself, whether or not you are an accredited investor, you'll find out shortly. In the UAE, we have what we call financially liquid investor, where in the bonds regulation, where the minimum assets with investor about 40 million dirhams. Yet right now we are working in the funds team on the funds regulation, where we come up with a definition for the accredited investor. But here I'll show you the definitions for the U.S. accredited investor. You have to have $1 million basically in net worth besides your residence, besides your home, okay? And an annual income of $200,000 for 3 years. Or if you are lucky and you make $200,000, you make $50,000, and your spouse makes $250,000 for 3 years in a row, you still qualify as an accredited investor, and then you can invest in hedge funds. So as a practical matter, if you make $150,000 as an individual, you could not invest in hedge funds in the U.S. And presumably, hedge funds are more risky than mutual funds, and then the investors must be more sophisticated and more wealthy to be able to take on the risks associated with hedge funds. All right. So now I'm going to start with a question for you. And this shows you the challenge that regulators, investors, advisors, and researchers face when they work with hedge funds. Okay. I operated a Ponzi scheme through the investment side of my business. I believed it would end shortly after it began. To the best of my recollection, in the early 1990s, however, this proved difficult. This is, if you want, a sincere moment by a fraudulent hedge fund manager in a courtroom. Any idea who said that? Madoff, indeed, yeah. He made off with a lot of people's money, okay? $50 billion fraud. He started defrauding investors in the 1990s, and he said this, I think, in early 2009. And he could not believe that he would be able to sustain an operation like that, but he did. And please, do research the investors list with Madoff. That's, and Dr. Black will tell you that too, that's who, it's who is who in the hedge fund investing with. Yet they were all wrong about investing with the Madoff funds. All right. Yeah, where's the opportunity for fraud? There it is. Remember, he's investing in very small, I'll call them micro cap stocks, as you will see shortly. Very small companies, probably don't trade, okay? Hence, no secondary market prices. And he boasts about, making loans to these companies and getting warrants. And again, just like the shares of those companies, the warrants are not liquid. So the valuations are non-existent, and that's where he comes in and value the securities himself. Okay? And this basically determine the net asset value for the fund, the profits, supposedly the phantom profit for the investors, and the fees that you would collect from the investors. All right. Who is Mr. Lauer? Okay. See, a lot of things that we find that we think are basic turn out to be untrue. All right. The sole fund manager, although I think the entire team was made up of five individuals. He claims that he graduated from Columbia University. There is no record of him graduating from Columbia University. But he did go to college. He went to City College, New York, and majored in Russian. Obviously, if you're from Ukraine, I think Russian is the second most important language in Ukraine. So Russian may have been his native language. So the gentleman lies about his education. Where did he start? He started Wall Street as an equity analyst, and this is another very interesting fact. Okay. Where he worked for three of the top Wall Street houses. true, but it's kind of fascinating. It shows you, well, you know, not everything is glossy, fabulous, okay, and prestigious signals credibility and honesty. You know, he was named to the All-American Research Team for several times from 1997 to 1993. And that is sponsored by Institutional That's the magazine. Now, anybody familiar with that? Fairly respected magazine, business magazine in the US. So I mean, you can use that to show off that you are a top-notch analyst. Okay? That won't say anything about whether or not he is a pro. Go back to the performance. Okay? You know, here's I have some, let's see if I can put this stuff in my notes. You know, if you look at this performance, there's a very valuable lesson for us. You know, obviously it's out of this world. What I found interesting is that the press does not show any skepticism towards this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have come to the end of the 2015 Alternative Investment Summit. The Kaya and ESCA would like to say thank you for your active participation. We look forward to seeing you in our future events. Thank you once again and have a good day ahead. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.